Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 51 of the All Dolphins podcast. This one in honor of one of my favorite defensive players ever for the Dolphins, a linebacker with heart like nobody's business, Brian Cox. Probably before your time.
Wow, that's a good one. I didn't know who you were going there with 51. And you had a lot of good options, but Brian Cox, probably one of the first players that I ever developed a man crush for, just because of his toughness and tenacity. And I thought he was a pretty good coach when he was here too.
Yep. And you always got everything out of that guy. I mean, toughness personified. We're not here to talk about Brian Cox. No matter how much we liked him, we're here to talk about the practice of Tuesday, August 22nd, as well as the Jonathan Taylor trade talk, rumors, speculation. All that good stuff. Let's start with the practice. Dolphins back on the field after the preseason win against the Houston Texans. What struck me is a couple of guys back at practice who hadn't in for a while. Myles Gaskin was back. Alec Ingold was back. Keon Crossan was back, though he did no team drills, unlike the other two. Cam Smith, this one I love, was back doing team drills. Also interesting that we saw a bunch of guys who are injured have been out, but were there physically. We got to get eyeballs on him. Teron Armstead was at practice. Did not notice a boot, a brace, anything of the sort on his right leg, which obviously is encouraging. Jalen Waddle was out there. We saw Lester Cotton was out there. He
was not working. Jalen Waddle was not working.
No.
Lester Cotton, we saw him, but he was not working. Alec Ingold was there and working. That's important.
And did team drills as well. Team periods.
Yes. And you're forgetting about Tanner Conner, who, surprise, coming up the PUP list. Think it's not a great move for him, but hey, maybe he feels really comfortable that he's going to make the 53-man roster, but you just basically expose yourself to being waived.
Yeah, except I'll be honest with you, and I'd have to talk to a league official, a team official, or an agent to find out exactly the logistics. If you're physically able to play, can you basically ask or prevent your team from activating you if they want to activate you? So in other words, exactly how much say did Tanner Conner have in being activated off PUP?
Good question.
The part where he's in a bit of a pickle, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but the part where he's a bit of a pickle is there's quite the battle for roster spots at tight end behind Durham Smythe, who's the only lock. And there's a week before roster cuts have been made, and this was his first practice.
Yes. I think you're exposing yourself to risk, but you make a very valid point, and I will be calling an agent to find out how much say does a player have in terms of whether or not he comes off PUP. But it looks like the Dolphins are really just clearing their injuries and putting every guy on the field and basically putting themselves in position to either waive them or give them an injury settlement. Hey, do what you got to do. This is your roster, your 53, and you shall be judged based on it.
But if he's cleared to practice, no, he's not going to get an injury settlement if the Dolphins decide to move on from him next Tuesday.
Yeah, but he's not in team drill, so clearly there's.
No, he was. Oh, but he was today actually.
Tanner Conner did.
Yes, he was, my friend. He even was a target of a pass from James Blackman. Actually, got some action in team periods, and he attempted a pass at Tanner Conner. Was broken up by a DB who escapes me right now, but absolutely he did some team periods.
I know I saw him during the offense during working their scripted stuff, but hey, if you say so, cool. All right.
I have to believe you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I believe you. I'm not doubting you. I wasn't looking at watching him. There was a lot of things to pay attention to. Let's talk about the action that we saw during practice. You mentioned James Blackman got some reps. Myles Gaskin dropped his probably lone touchdown pass that he possibly could have thrown during a practice, during a red zone and goal line specific day. Tua threw an interception. I can't remember if that was the Deshaun Elliott interception, and Javon Holland pulled down an interception on Skylar Thompson. Both quarterbacks got the majority of the work because Mike White is in concussion protocol.
Also at practice today.
What'd you say?
I said also at practice today.
Okay. Action wasn't bad from an offensive standpoint. Highlight for me was an Eli Apple breakup of a Tyreek Hill touchdown, possible touchdown pass. Eli celebrated it with the defenders. and Tyreek,
Good.
Tyreek was like giving hand signals like where the ball should have been placed, but wasn't that big of a tremendous practice. Saw some good plays, saw some bad plays, saw some defense. Really, the defense I could say is they're good. They still got issues that they need to address, but they're good. They're solid. The question is how. And I know where I stand, where the offense is trying things. I see daily basis, the offense is trying things. And I think it was Frank Smith who said when we talked to the position coaches today, every week they're going into it with a goal of these are the things we want to do and achieve and focus on. And that's where the focus needs to be. And also, he basically said, when we're game planning for people's weak areas and weak links. And this is not what you've been doing for the last month. So don't sit here and judge the offense based on it. I would be shocked if they even create a game plan for Jacksonville. They just want to continue to work on what they want to work on.
Oh, no, I agree with you. And I would also tell you that I saw a lot of good throws from Tua today. And the pick by Deshaun Elliott came on a deep pass to Braxton Berrios at the numbers on the right side with a cornerback who had, I couldn't tell who it was, who had decent coverage, and Deshaun Elliott was playing center field, jumped up, made the catch. Not sure that's a ball that Tua throws in a regular season game, to your point. Yes. Tua had a couple of other really nice throws. He had a deep completion to Tyreek Hill, who got behind Ethan Bonner, the rookie cornerback, down the right sideline. And yes, and this is where, again, where completions matter. Yes, it's an unfair matchup, Tyreek Hill against Ethan Bonner, but Tua put that pass precisely, exactly on the numbers. And so I'm not sure it wouldn't have mattered. In fact, somebody made that comment as we were watching it among the media. Wouldn't have mattered who was covering Tyreek on that particular play. The pass was perfect. That would have been a completion regardless. He had another one to Robbie Chosen. You'll like that. With Bradley Chubb bearing on him.
Yes, I remember that.
And that was like a throw right over.
And he threw it was like he threw it to a spot where he knew his receiver would be.
It was a great throw. And then the other throw that's worthy of mention, because it's not necessarily, as we've said, this is not a throw that's Tua's forte, was when they were backed up, I don't know, maybe their 5-yard line or whatever, he threw an out to Robbie Chosen, past the numbers near the sideline with very, very good coverage. And Tua put it basically the only place it could be put for completion was right on the money, and Chosen came down with a catch. So those were really good throws. So I thought he had a very, very good practice.
I was standing with OJ McDuffie and we were talking because I was really just grilling him on his thought process on the receivers. As we know, OJ McDuffie is a legendary wide receiver coach. He now does the post-game show for 940. And so he was watching practice, and I saw that was on the play where he threw that pass to Robbie Chosen. I can't believe I'm still struggling with the name. And it was to a spot. Chosen wasn't open. Chosen did not make his cut. Tua threw the ball, saw Chubb barreling down on him, and threw the ball to a spot. And I asked OJ, did you ever have a quarterback who threw to spots, not to receivers? And he was like, no, but I had Dan couldn't force it in anywhere. Correct. So, and it's just a contrast to the quarterbacks. Tua is not Dan, but what he does, I've rarely ever seen that. And I know you like seen what, a receiver, he throws to guys before they even make their break. And that's just sometimes I'm not saying he does it all the time.
Because let's not overstate that, because I've heard, and I'm going to get myself in trouble again because I'm pushing back. But dude, that was a fabulous throw. Okay, and like you said, it was the only spot it could be done. And on occasion, I'd say more often than not, the receiver makes his cut. But he had a very good practice.
Tua throws that pass without guys making a cut. Throws passes without guys making a cut all the time. I think that's where the accuracy and the anticipation shines. That you're not going to take that. I'll let you take pocket presence away. You're not going to take that away from Tua. I remember once in the moments of too honest Tua, he said one time, yeah, I can't see over the line, so I got to throw the spots. And I'm like, you don't say that. Even if you can't see over the line, you don't say that. But it's very impressive to watch.
He's 6 feet. He's 6 feet. Why would that? It boggled my mind that even ever became a story. He's 6 feet tall, operating behind 6'5", 6'6" offensive linemen and 6'5", 6'6" defensive linemen coming at him. It's a shock that sometimes he can't see over the line. I mean, come on. Ideally, you'd like to have to create a passing lane where he's got an open window where he can see. But the fact is, there are going to be a lot of times where he's not going to be able to see over the line.
Or somebody's coming right in between that passing lane, like that Chubb play was, because Chubb, it was an interior blitz pressure that Chubb. It wasn't even a stunt. He saw the passing lane and he jumped in that thing. And the defense, the outside linebackers, they have a freedom to do that as long as they supposedly make the play, or have their presence felt. They could. That's one thing I've realized about this outside linebacker unit. They can do whatever they want. And people say that the scheme is built around the safety, Javon Holland, and I would argue against that. Yes, I've heard that.
No, I would too.
I've heard that. I would argue against that and say that this defense is built around the outside linebackers, because literally they have carte blanche. They could do whatever they want. They have their rules. If a guy drops, they got to take him, and they got their and they got their edge to set. If it's a run play, this is my edge. But outside of that, you can do whatever you want, baby. And it's very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think we need to get to the Jonathan Taylor situation, and I know there's a section of Dolphin fans going to be like, leave it alone. Like, who cares about that? Dalvin Cook, something. Yes, we're going to discuss it. Before we get to that, though, I do want to mention some guys who really jumped out to me in practice. Zach Sealer again. Christian Wilkins, in case anybody's wondering, didn't do team drills. Zach Sealer did. And again, the dude's been an absolute monster the entire summer. Malik Reed, I really felt him as a pass rusher today.
Hold on, monster? Are we going monster? Because I
Sealer,
would say,
oh my God, he's been.
Hold on. Christian Wilkins, the first 2 weeks was monster. Are you putting Zach Sealer on Christian Wilkins' level? Let's clarify this.
He's been, I'm putting him on that level. Absolutely, this summer. He's been completely outrageous. He's been excellent, and like Christian Wilkins was before he decided to stop doing the team periods. Yes, I said what I said.
We should call this podcast "I Said What I Said." Now that I think about it, very good. On a scale of 1 to 5, I would give him a 4. It's been by far exceeded my expectations. Impressive. But I would not say he's performed on Christian Wilkins' level. Christian Wilkins was a problem the first 2 weeks of practice.
Okay.
So he was like the Grinch who stole Liam Eichenberg's confidence. Am I lying? Was he not?
Time out. Let me, since you mentioned Liam Eichenberg, he was back doing team drills today, which is very important to note, because that battle for the starting left guard job is still ongoing, and he didn't do any work in team periods last week in Houston. So that's important to mention. Okay, so
Lester Cotton was not doing work. So now we're back to a 2-man battle.
Correct. Can we agree on this? How about we say Wilkins was a 5 and Sealer has been a 4.
You're not gonna do how about that? You're not gonna do how about that?
Not yet. No, I said now let's not pretend that I'm not gonna do it at some point. How about that? There we go. Okay. So how about Wilkins a 5, Sealer 4.5?
No, 4. We're at a 4. You can't give him 4.5. No, sorry.
4.2.
Like, that would mean name the players who have performed at a 5 level in practice. There's only Christian Wilkins and Xavier Howard is my list.
I wouldn't put X as a 5. X to me would be
what?
Yeah.
Tell me when X got beat. Tell me the day X got beat.
He's gotten like 2 or 3 flags called or uncalled.
Okay.
All
right. I'll accept the
Okay.
flags. So you're knocking him based on penalties. PI is part of the game now. Okay. So your list is what? Only Christian Wilkins at a 5?
At a 5 level. I mean, yeah, that's like, yeah. But Sealer to me, 4.5 X 4.5. Tyreek Hill after a slow start is back to pretty close to that.
And Javon Holland?
No, it's been good, but 4. It's been good.
Okay, that's fair. And Austin Jackson? Austin Jackson?
Not 4, 3.6. If I had told you 3.6, 3.8. 3.8, 3.8.
Wow.
He had a
okay,
lull. There was a lull. I will tell you this, that he's back up again, but there was a lull.
Tua's not out here trying to impress us. Tua's out here trying to work on things, and I respect that. So it's not going to look pretty all the time.
Okay, that's fine. That's great and dandy, but I mean, if we're going to start doing that, and then okay, what's the excuse for Tyreek? Tyreek wasn't going fast early on because he didn't want to break the confidence of the DBs. I mean, we could play that game. We could play that game all. I mean, come on. And again,
you cannot reveal Tyreek's secrets.
Oh, this is just me like throwing it out there, suggesting that might have been the case. Tua's back on the upswing. He's looking better and better and better, which is good because you want to be going up as we head into the regular season. Should we go ahead and dive into the Jonathan Taylor talk, or is there anything else from practice that stands out?
Nothing really.
Okay. Let me preface by saying, gang, again, for those who are like going to throw their hands up and say, we don't need a running back, whatever. We're not talking about like an ordinary running back. Yes, the Dolphins have a lot of depth at running back. They have a lot of capable running backs. But just like Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor is a different kind of running back. And where he differs from Dalvin Cook, yes, it's going to require trade compensation. And yes, chances are you're going to have to deal with his contract situation. But Jonathan Taylor is also he played 3 years in the NFL, as opposed to Dalvin Cook, who had played 8. And if Dalvin Cook was in, let's say, I've seen most of the rankings of running backs in the NFL, Dalvin Cook comes in usually 8, that neighborhood. Jonathan Taylor is easily top 4. So he's the kind of guy who takes a good team among a large group of good teams in the AFC and brings it up to another level. Does he not, Omar?
Yes, we've run for 1,800 yards in 2021 season, where he was probably arguably an MVP candidate since he had 18 touchdowns. Last year, he had a down year because of injuries, only played 11 games, still ran for 861 yards. The important thing to me is he is a threat from a pass catching standpoint. He's averaging about 35 receptions per season. He's averaging, what is it? Let me give you. It's really only 18.7 yards per reception per game, but he scored a ton of touchdowns, 33 rushing, 3 from a receiving standpoint, and he's still young. The mileage on the tread on the tires is not super high, even though he's got 756 carries in the regular season. The one thing I will say about Jonathan Taylor is, and this isn't necessarily about Jonathan Taylor, while I like the improvement that the offensive line has shown, and in year 2 of Mike McDaniel's offense, history says that the run game takes a significant step forward. And that step forward will be good with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. Now, will you be at the contender level with your run game if you add Jonathan Taylor? My argument is yes. And I said the same thing about Dalvin Cook. I said Dalvin Cook makes Miami a contender, whereas they are not now. And I Dolphin fans, I'm sorry that saying this disappoints you and hurts your heart, but if you ask every media member that covers this team that has watched every practice, is this team a contender, and force them to give an answer, we all unanimously would tell you they're not. Am I lying, Poop?
I'm sorry you are, because our good friend Marcel actually said on his network that he would put with the obligatory caveat of if Tua stays healthy, he would put as a ceiling.
Marcel puts them as a contender?
Super Bowl as a ceiling if Tua stays healthy.
Marcel said that?
Yes, our good friend
Wow.
Marcel. Yes.
Okay, you have to have a conversation tomorrow. Not that I'm trying to talk him out of it, but I would love to hear because we all have these conversations and we all talk, and I think all of us, majority of us, obviously Marcel is the exception, look at this team as a very good team, a AFC championship contending team, a wild card contending team. But when it comes time to do battle with the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, and the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm not sure if any one of us would say the Dolphins can get them all if they don't get lucky. And I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings as a Dolphin fan, but there are issues still with this team. Now, I personally believe that if you juice up the run game, which a Dalvin Cook would do, or a Jonathan Taylor would do, it would relieve some pressure from Tua, it would relieve some pressure from your offensive line, and it would relieve some pressure from your defense. And it'd probably make Mike McDaniel's job a little bit easier. Those are the things that you need to do, in my opinion, in order to enter that stratosphere of the conversation of teams that can take down the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Cincinnati Bengals. If you have a dominant running game, you can potentially take them down. Now, the question is, what is the price? If you're going to trade for Jonathan Taylor in this situation, especially having done this holdout, you are going to need a new contract. You're not playing on the final year of your deal. This isn't a fifth-year option situation where he got a bump. This is the final year of a rookie second-year contract deal, whereas Javon Holland will be in the exact same situation next year. Trust me, Javon Holland is not playing football without a new contract next year. So while you calculate all the things that you got to do next year, you better remember you got to give Javon Holland a top 5 cornerback salary.
Safety.
Now,
Safety.
Top 5 safety salary. Now, with Jonathan Taylor, he's not coming here for free. So don't think you're going to trade for him and not give him a $12 to $13 million a year contract, if not $14 million a year contract. The running backs are trying to reset the market. Jonathan Taylor is probably the first in position to do so. And he's probably going to want to do his part and be responsible for carrying that. Just like Christian says, he's got to carry that flag for all those defensive linemen in the league. Jonathan Taylor's going to carry that flag for the offensive linemen. Now, why does this make sense for Miami, or why is Miami in play? Chris Greer loves him some trades. Chris Greer is always on the phone trying to make a deal and trying to figure out how can we help each other. That's just his nature. He's made more trades in the NFL since becoming the top lead official for the Dolphins than anybody else in the league. I'm surprised we haven't seen a trade thus yet, but I guess we got a whole week to go.
Not one around the NFL since the start of training camp, by the way. Go ahead.
Okay, that's interesting. Usually Chris Greer is the one that starts the domino rolling. What's a fair price for Jonathan Taylor? To me, I'm not giving up a first-round pick. Mike McDaniel said something at the end of the Dolphins 2023 draft that really made some sense. He said, I would like to use one of those, finally.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to them. Making sure that they keep that first-round pick is important to them. So, therefore, a second and some change, whether it be a second and a fourth, whether it be a second and a third, we're talking future years, or a second and a second. I think that's fair. Now, would you give up a second and some change for Jonathan Taylor?
Okay, here's the two sides to it. And one area where we also need to mention where Taylor would help beyond the obvious is third and short. Okay, because he's not only he's got some wiggle, some quickness, he's also got some size to him. And I will get all of the arguments. I totally get it. Why would you do that? Why would you take on another big salary and all that? Well, you're going for it. Are we going for it, or are we not going for it? I have the Dolphins right now. I'm with you completely. Buffalo, KC, Cincinnati, the 3 top teams in the AFC until proven otherwise. And then there are a whole slew of other teams that are really, really good teams, are borderline. I mean, not borderline. They are playoff teams, playoff caliber teams. That's the Jets, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, maybe Cleveland. Jacksonville's going to the AFC South running away, and the Chargers. Well, if I do my math, that's more teams than there are playoff slots. You tack on Jonathan Taylor to this team, then to me, they reached the Buffalo, KC, Cincinnati level. Whether you want to brand them now Super Bowl contenders, whatever, to me, they reached that top tier in the AFC. And again, this is a team that's gone. You mentioned the trades. They haven't been afraid to go for the big one. Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Ramsey. And you have, I've mentioned this before, you have an owner who's not getting any younger, who's got a lot of money, doesn't have a Super Bowl title or Super Bowl appearance or AFC championship game appearance on his resume as an owner. And I would think,
and he doesn't mind paying record-setting contracts.
Correct. And I would think it eats at him a little bit, that his record as an NFL owner has not matched his record as a real estate mogul. As far as the price, if you look at the Christian McCaffrey example from last year, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, it was like 2, 3, 4, 5 in different years. So yes, to me, a two plus other assets, Cedric Wilson. That would.
You're not unloading Cedric Wilson. I'm
gonna try. But a 2 and other assets sounds reasonable, and I get the idea of why would you want to tack on another big salary to your team? Well, because you're going for it. So, and if you're going for it, why not completely go for it? And here's the deal too. For Dolphin fans who were like, we're going to poo-poo this idea, no pun intended, off my name, Poop, or nickname, I should say. Would you be cool with the Dolphins really going for it and winning the Super Bowl this year if it means a couple of down years down the line because you kind of sacrifice a little bit of salary cap maneuverability down the stretch? Or do you prefer being good to really good for several years down the road, but not win the Super Bowl?
Well, you said two things that kind of complicated things for me.
Sorry.
Salary cap hell is coming, whether you do Jonathan Taylor or not.
Very good point.
Now, if you do Jonathan Taylor, it's going to complicate you regarding Christian Wilkins and all the other guys.
Fair.
Now, an important thing to say is cap hell is coming. And you're right, either going for it or you're not going for it. My issue with this team right now is they don't have enough depth on this team. And while running back is not an area that I am concerned about depth, it's not. I like my depth at running back position. I like the talent that I have in the running back room. I will say I am not absolutely convinced that they can be a top 5 rushing team in the league. And I think that if they are a top 5 rushing team or even a top 10 rushing team, I think that they'll have the magic that it takes to get to double-digit wins, possibly push for 12. Now, that's Jonathan Taylor. I'm not certain if it's Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. But I will say this. When you juice up the running game, it juices up everything and makes everything better. This offense is a lot RPO based. That means a lot of times the quarterback is deciding whether or not he's passing or if he's throwing. And I certainly can tell you that right now, defenses are going to play the pass much more than they're going to play the run. Imagine if that gets flipped. And a Jonathan Taylor, like a Dalvin Cook, has the potential to flip that. Whereas Raheem Mostert will not flip that. Under any circumstances, he will not flip that.
Even though he's a nice back, he's not necessarily elite.
Yeah. So that's why I do it if it's a second and a third. I might even go a second and a second in a future year. Now, would I pay the salary? It'd be tough, but I would do it because it would make me a media contender, and not just that, but he'd be here for at least 3 years. The question that you need to ask and answer yourself is, why would the Dolphins be willing to give Jonathan Taylor $12 million, $13 million when they weren't willing to give Dalvin Cook $8 million without a draft pick?
Mileage is I think a big part of it. That's number one, and number two, that Jonathan Taylor may be a little bit better as a running back at this time. I think that would be the argument for it.
Okay,
it would be painful, but then again, what's the saying go for women? Beauty is pain, or something like that. again, if you're really going for it, it's tough to argue against the idea of making that trade if it can be made, and then complaining that the Dolphins are not going for it. You know, it's like
This is an all-in move, is what you're saying.
yes, it's an all-in move. And I get the argument could be made, the Dolphins have bigger needs at other areas at this moment. Sure, but I don't know if that there's anybody available right now to address those needs and upgrade the team the way acquiring Jonathan Taylor would. So, and
Yeah, even if you let's say you traded for a Zach Martin, who got his deal, his $18 million a year deal to be left guard, it's not going to improve your team as much as a Jonathan Taylor would. It'll improve your team, but not as much as a Jonathan Taylor would. Now, question is, do you do it? Do you have the money? Yes. Do you have the collateral in terms of assets? Yes. I would think that maybe you throw in a Jeff Wilson to sweeten the deal. And because clearly, Indianapolis.
Well, you're gonna have a surplus. I think that's a given that one of those running backs gets thrown in there.
Yeah. The only concern that I have about whether or not this should be something that you pursue is, why not wait a year when you're probably going to be in financial difficulty next year anyway. So that's probably one of the factors why not wait a year. But Saquon Barkley's going to be out there. Dalvin Cook's going to be back on the market. Jonathan Taylor's going to be there. Dobbins
Josh Jacobs. Also.
Huh?
Josh Jacobs also.
Josh Jacobs. Yeah. I mean, hell, why not have a conversation about Josh Jacobs? Not to say that I would prefer Josh Jacobs over Jonathan Taylor, because I really haven't looked at it. But why not be patient and wait a year when everything's going to be free?
That's fair. This is where, is it possible that again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Is it possible that maybe there could be some hesitation there because of the uncertainty health-wise when it comes to your quarterback?
Hesitation on Miami's part to wait a year?
Correct. We don't know. Tua hasn't gone through a full year healthy since 2017, 16 or whatever. Right now everything is copacetic in terms of his health. So everything is set up for a big run.
Yeah, in a week where you just had two quarterbacks undergo concussion testing. Yeah. Fortunately, the one that has concussion issues did not suffer a concussion. Man.
Yeah.
That's scary if you think about it. Like,
so the question to me again, it's very simple. If you want, it's an absolutely an all-in move if the Dolphins are going to go for this. This is basically saying, and there can be no doubt, this is basically saying we think we have a team that can win the Super Bowl right now. That's why you would make the move. And Dolphins are a playoff caliber team, even if they don't make the move. How many things have to go right for them to be more than that is the question.
How many things have to go right for them? Definitely need a dominant run game. Definitely need a top 10 defense. Definitely need to be one of the leaders in turnover margin. Definitely need to stay relatively healthy, and definitely need Tua to be the Tua that we saw last year. Correct? Am I anything off the list I'm missing?
The Tua through 11 games, yes.
Huh?
The Tua through 11 games, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just saying, is there anything else that needs to happen on the list for them to be an upper echelon, a top 8 team in this league?
Well, the
top 8
special teams can be booty cheeks, as you call it. Did I say that right? Booty cheeks.
Yeah. Love that you use my term. Yes, it's. We all already know that it's headed to booty cheeks town.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I recall a game last year where I can specifically pin a loss on the special teams, but it seemed that they had to overcome a lot of stuff way too often because the special teams were so bad. And
we saw a lot of special teams work today, which is a step in the right direction. I think this is the final week where guys are going to have to prove that they belong on the 53-man roster. And as I've been preaching since episode 20, you want to prove you belong on a 53-man roster, start busting some heads on special teams. And right now I'm having tough decisions about Jarrett Nelson, not because he's that dynamic a player, but because I'm thirsty for somebody who can bust a head on special teams.
Can I interrupt 1 quick second? Because there's an important point that I need to make here. Part of the reason we're talking about Jonathan Taylor and discussing it and not dismissing it out of hand like some fans would want us to do, odds makers are making the Dolphins the favorite to be Jonathan Taylor's new team in 2023 if he doesn't stay with the Colts. Okay, so it's not just, oh, why are they wasting time talking about that? Obviously, odds makers who maybe usually tend to know things. So that's out there. Another quick note on special teams. You mentioned Justin Bethel, who's been out since the joint practice against Atlanta. We saw him today. He was wearing something nasty looking around his left knee, which suggests to me he's not playing at the start of the regular season. Although I'm not speculating.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, but it didn't look good.
That looks like either IR or injury settlement. But yeah, he's not. He's struggling to walk. I'm not sure he can necessarily run. We got some tough decisions to make when it comes to the 53-man roster. Big week. Guys have exactly a week to kind of impress the team. And I believe Mike McDaniel said it. There are guys fighting for starting spots. Left guard, safety, a boundary cornerback, third wide receiver, second tight end. Those are all starting roles. And then there are guys that are fighting for the back end of the roster. Vic Fangio said it. It's easy to come from player 1 to 40, but the tough decisions are player. I think it's 8 to 13 spots that you really are fighting for on the back end of the roster. And man, I was like, wow, damn, that's good. I guess you've been around the league for quite a long time, and it's the same situation, same battle. And then on top of that, you got guys that are fighting for the 16 practice squad spots. And I'm going to begin the process of working backwards and telling you my practice squad guys before I sit there and calculate, okay, who's on or off the 53-man roster. And even talking to my media cohorts, you might see a guy like Chosen Anderson released initial wave because you have to keep guys like Justin Bethel and Jalen Ramsey on the 53.
Wasn't that me who pointed that out?
Somebody. Was it you in the media room?
It was me.
Okay, it was you.
Right.
Listen, I start to tune you out after episode about 40. Yeah. But yeah, it's a good point. And then you could waive a Chosen and then bring him back the next day because nobody's going to claim Chosen, whereas somebody might be tempted to claim Peely. So these are the juxtaposition decisions that you have to make. All right, to the close.
Yep, to the close. And again, when we're dealing with veterans, also there could be a wink agreement of like, listen, we're going to cut you to keep this guy and then put him on IR, and then we'll bring you back. So that also could happen. So that's going to wrap it up for episode 51. Brian Cox. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. Another practice. Like, subscribe, share, do all the good stuff. Omar.